it's an interesting question. How much maybe like technical knowledge about linguistics can actually teach us about, for example, accents and actors, for example, if they want to learn a new accent, for example, studying linguistics?
Yeah, well, I think we're talking about applied linguistics now, I think, really. Linguistics will give us all the answers we want about the actual phonetic character of sounds and the distribution of accents and all that sort of thing. But when you're talking to the general public or working with other professionals that are interested in language, whatever the domain is, then you've got to start moderating, manipulating. In a sense, applied linguistics is a world of half-truths or half-stories. You can't say too much, otherwise you're going to swamp people. You can only say as much as is necessary in order to get the job done. And this is quite tricky. And one of the important things that you have to do is make sure that whatever your intention is, whatever the field of study you're trying to put across, you get it checked out by the people you're going to be working with. It's no good just, saying, I've got the solution to your problem. I've got something here. You use it now. No. You've got to get the people to take your perspective, work with it, operate with it, react to it, and then something interesting might happen. Some kind of dialogue might take place. I'll give you an example. I don't know what the book was that your girlfriend looked at, but depending upon the age she was. But once upon a time, I wrote a book called A Little Book of Language. And it was part of a series that Yale University Press were doing called A Little Book of. Little Book of everything. Little Book of philosophy, Little Book of the history of the world, and so on. Little Book of literature. And they asked me to do a Little Book of language. And it's aimed at 12-year-olds, you see, or young teenagers. So I had a go at writing this, and then I thought, I better get this read by a 12-year-old just to make sure that I've got it right. So I found a tame 12-year-old near where I live and passed the manuscript over. And I said to her, and I paid her for it too. I mean, it's a professional job. And I said, read this. Underline anything you don't understand. Well, Lucas, Ollie, I mean, the criticism I got from her was worse than any academic criticism I've ever had in my life. She just underlined this and that. And I suddenly realized that I had no idea how 12-year-olds think, operate, what their expectations are. I'll give you just one quick example of the problem. There was a chapter in there on pseudonyms. And for those who don't know, pseudonyms are names that you put on other than your real name for some professional reason. Lots of film stars have got pseudonyms, for instance, pop singers and so on. And in order to illustrate this, I gave examples of John Wayne. And she underlined John Wayne. And I said to her, do you not know who John Wayne is? He's the most famous cowboy in the history of Hollywood. You don't know? She said, I have no idea. I have no idea who John Wayne is. I have never watched it, And I suddenly realized there was a kind of generation gap or even a culture gap of some sort between my perception of the world and the perception of a modern 12-year-old youngster. And that's the sort of thing I mean. I then had to, of course, work out with her what some people were that she would know about that had pseudonyms. And we talked about, Madonna and Eminem and so on. And in the end, we got some examples we both agreed about. But that's the sort of thing I mean. You can never totally anticipate the problems that the people you're working with are going to come up with. So you've got to spend the time exploring their world, their mindset, if you like, before you finally decide which aspects of linguistics are going to be the ones that will actually appeal to them and which they're going to be able to use in a very practical and everyday way.
I was wondering what examples you ended up landing on. You said Eminem. Were there any others that maybe a 12-year-old at the time would have known?
Well,
any funny
I
ones?
mean, the irony is that at the time they were very well known, and I'm not sure they are now. I mean, you're asking the wrong person now, Ollie, actually, because my awareness of contemporary pop singers is not as good as it used to be.